Fiance, 25 female, and I, 26 male. Got engaged about 2 years ago after dating for close to 4 years, and our wedding is in less than 2 weeks. Fiance's parents, 50s, are divorced, and she still has good relationships with both of them. Fiance's dad got remarried when Fiance was 13. Fiance's stepmother, 50s female, has always tried too hard to be Fiance's mom and is very narcissistic about it, to the point where Fiance is not allowed to mention her mother in conversation when at her dad's house. Understandably, Fiance does not care much for her stepmother. Predictably, when we announced our engagement, Fiance's stepmother wanted to be involved in absolutely every single detail of planning. We were able to handle this by not inviting stepmother to venue tours and the like, and by telling our wedding planner to ignore any suggestions that stepmother phoned in. However, stepmother got wind this was happening and began voicing her requests to us directly. These requests started about 10 months ago. Some of the requests were benign. Some of them were very extreme. For example, stepmom suggested a wedding at a venue that would cause 99% of the wedding invitees to have a 5+ hour drive. This request was respectfully declined. Stepmom wanted a Catholic reception and ceremony. Fiance and I are both agnostic. This request was denied. Stepmom wanted Fiance to not wear white to the wedding, since she was no longer pure. This request was disrespectfully declined. The last request that she made was very unacceptable to us. She did not want Fiance's real mom or stepdad to be at the wedding. There was no real reason given. This request was also declined, very disrespectfully, and the request stopped after that. This was 3 months ago. 2 months ago, I got a call from my best man. Apparently, he had gotten off the phone with his ex-girlfriend, who had been invited to the wedding. She thought this was weird, since she did not know either of us. We had given 10 invites each to my parents, Fiance's dad, stepmom, mom, stepdad. Invite lists were sent directly to our wedding planner, who sent the invites. We had not yet seen the full invite list, as we did not think this was going to be a problem. Upon closer investigation, we found out that stepmom's entire invite list consisted of former romantic partners of myself, my fiancé, and a few higher-ranking members of the bridal party. We suspect she stalked our social media profiles to gain this information. At this point, both fiancé and I are fed up with stepmom and officially uninvited her to the wedding, along with her invited friends. Understandably, this upset stepmom to the point of angry and incoherent yelling, and we have since gone no contact with her. As an added consequence of all this stupidity, we have also hired security for the wedding and changed the venue, neither of which were cheap. Fast forward to yesterday, less than 2 weeks to the wedding. Stepmom has pulled her final card. She left our best man a voicemail saying that fiance's dad will not be attending the wedding without her, and that she will not be attending the wedding if fiance's mom is there. Fiance's dad has not been answering calls or texts all day. My theory is that stepmom secretly blocked our numbers, but I haven't been able to test that yet. Fiance is understandably extremely distraught at this. Personally, I don't think her dad is going to listen to her stepmom. He's ex-Marine, and this is his only daughter's wedding. That being said, I have absolutely no way of confirming if he will be there or not. Stepmom is currently still blocked everywhere we can think of, as we do not wish to negotiate with terrorists. Over the past several hours, I've come up with a few different solutions. Show up at fiance's dad's work to talk to him personally. My next course of action currently. Get friends together a few nights before wedding to kidnap him, to make sure he attends the wedding. Not recommended. Re-invite stepmom, and have security detain her if she acts out at all. My personal favorite. Under no circumstances are we uninviting fiance's mom. Both fiance and I are on the same page with that one. Fiance's dad seems to have the spine of a wet noodle, because nowhere in your story he seems to have stood up for his daughter, nor supported his wife in her crazy requests. Uninvite the guy. Ask the bio mom to walk fiance, or someone else special who's not letting this dream day be ruined. You've spent a lot of time on his wife's drama. Now you still want to invest more in this guy who's been so absent from all these discussions. Considering his wife, your fiance can't have had that great of a time with him, as he has always allowed that hag to sabotage that bond ages ago. Up your security. She's going to show up in her wedding dress. If your fiance's dad doesn't want to be at his daughter's wedding because his wife won't be there, that's his choice to make. Your stepmother-in-law has made it clear that she doesn't respect you and your wedding, so she isn't going to be there. Don't have that Mormon at your wedding no matter what. My brother and I have only come in contact recently. When he was born, my parents adopted him out to a good family, because we were poor and living in a homeless shelter. We never had contact with him till recently. My parents turned their lives around at that point, and worked very hard, and I'm now inheriting a few $1 million from their success. But the most important thing they provided for me was stability and education to allow me to create my own successful life. My brother and I came into contact 2 years ago when he found me. My mother had already passed and my father was ill. They did communicate a little bit, but not a lot. My father passed away recently and he told me that everything was coming to me except an obligatory 5K, which he passed on to my brother. My brother was furious and felt slighted once again. I do sympathize with him, but my father told me not to give him any money. His real parents are well-to-do and have supported him and loved him, so he wasn't missing out on that department, but I feel bad. He's demanding I give him half, if not all the inheritance, because he was given away. I think it's ridiculous to give him anything more than half. I asked him when his parents passed would I get an inheritance as well, to which he got snarky with me and stormed off. I don't know what to do now. If a relationship with him is dependent on you giving him money, that's not a particularly healthy relationship. Your parents' decision to not give him money is not your fault, and nor is it your responsibility to give him anything. Don't give him a single penny. This is extortion, manipulation, and simple greed at its ugliest. You really think you'll have a relationship with him after you give him the money? There's a reason your father said not to give him anything, and why he didn't give him more than he had to. It's not your fault that your brother was given up for adoption. Also not your fault that your parents were able to turn their lives around and leave you a large inheritance. Your brother is jealous and greedy, and I would not give him anything. My husband and I are expats in a country where the average household considers themselves lucky to make $2,000 to $3,000 a year. For the purpose of not giving too much identification information out, I will be referring to the country as Country E. 2.5 years ago, my husband, who works in finance, was promoted to a position in which he could finally have the compensation, authority, and projects that he always dreamed of. The downside was that the position would be in the company's headquarters in another country. Required us to move away from our family and friends. But I was so excited for my husband, and our kids, 15 female and 10 male, were so happy about experiencing another culture, as well as supporting their dad, that we urged my husband to take the position. Because they were telling my husband they wanted to see him there as soon as possible, we agreed that he would go settle in and we would fly over around 2 months later. It seems that the moment his plane took off towards Country E marked the beginning of the end of all his feelings of respect and appreciation for me and the kids. After just 2 months apart, I could sense a drastic change in my husband. He went from calling me and the kids every day to every other day, and then reducing communication to texts. At first, I thought he was just busy settling in, but the night before we were to fly out, he video chatted us, and the kids asked him why he seemed disappointed that we were coming. He said that they were imagining things, and it was just how his face looked on camera. As we settled into our new home, he shot us pretty resentful looks and continuously snapped at me not to touch this or that. Like most expats, we lived in a home that was miles grander and showier than we could have ever got back home. And with a lot of stuff like a company car and housekeeping services paid for by the company. My husband had money to burn, and started having ridiculously high expectations about how he dressed and looked. He bought himself loads of designer watches with his fellow corporate Masters of the Universe friends, and spent lavishly at restaurants and bars on the company tab. He also invested quite a bit of our money in real estate here, since the government is pushing for foreign investors to invest, even adopting more liberal outward rhetoric in order to be appealing to the West. The country we live in has extreme wealth disparities, most of it, unfortunately, not held by locals. There is a center city area where all the basically high-end stores, hotels, clubs, and restaurants, as well as homes, are in the country. And despite the fact that this country is technically conservative, escorting is rapid, and is an outgrowth of the generally desperate economic straits of families, and the fact that it is obvious who has money, and therefore where to go and who to target. Escorts are apparent basically everywhere in the area we live where there are restaurants or bars or entertainment. When men see dressed-up local women in pairs roaming around an establishment, they assume they are escorts, and 90% of the time, they are right. An expat friend once asked a woman who approached him in a bar what she did, and she said it was obvious what she did. My husband started criticizing my appearance a lot, and when we'd go out, he'd ask if I ever considered wearing my hair like woman A, B, or C. Or, we'll go out to eat as a family, and he'll ignore what the kids are saying, and just stare at different women. When his friends come over, my husband always brags in front of me about the women that approach him. Not just at bars, but also brags about how local women who work in the office with him are also exceptionally engaging. He got very aggressive in bed. My daughter found a bunch of contacts on his phone that blew up his phone with flirty messages on WhatsApp. And instead of at least pretending to be ashamed for our daughter's sake, he went the "your dad is still attractive" angle, but botched it terribly when it turned into a diatribe about how he had to give out the number to one woman because she looked close to tears when he tried to pull away. While most women are respectful when a man is with his wife and/or family, sometimes it happens we're at restaurants and hotels where my husband is a regular for dinner. Women, who I assume are also regulars, will discard my presence and give me a scornful once-over. When we are out as a family and my husband sees a woman give his attire an approving once-over, he will smile flirtatiously back and seem to bask in the glow and not pay attention to me or the kids. I've been to support groups and have been told to let it wear off because many other wives have experienced their husbands being drunk on attention. But my husband seems to be getting more and more obsessed about the attention. My son is young, but he has gone from happy-go-lucky to glaring at his father and whoever he is smiling at. My husband and I have tried to communicate, but everything turns into my fault. I do not appreciate his contributions enough when I disagree with him saying the kids don't need to learn how to do laundry because the housekeeper will do it for them. I do not appreciate him when I refuse to have S for the third time in a night. I do not appreciate him when I move the furniture from how he organized it, or when I disagree with him on anything. I started tracking our banking information and found out that he made numerous large withdrawals. He denied vehemently that he was seeking escorts, and said I seemed jealous and had something against people who escort. I told him that, to the contrary, that I feel bad for people who need to put their lives and health at risk like this, and do not have access to any forms of government assistance. We had a big fight that night, and I went to stay with a friend for the night to cool off. When I came back home, he glared at me and said, "Oh, you're back. What if I don't want you here anymore?" I do not know what to do. My support group keeps telling me that he will get off his power trip, but if I leave him, I will likely lose any assets he has here. My kids obviously still have school and love their classmates. I need any advice about how to save my marriage, or how to get my husband to stop thinking that I am not enough for him when I haven't changed from when we were not expats. Yet, while he respected and appreciated me back home, he scorns me here. There are certain kinds of guys who always thought that they deserved female attention, but never got it for whatever reason. Once they get it, it's game over. They're going to be woman hopping for the rest of their lives in their new paradise on earth. Smarter men know, when you walk around with obvious trappings of wealth in a poor country, you are nothing but a mark, a walking wallet, a possible way out of poverty. The attention gets sad after a while, then just plain aggravating if you're loyal, or want women to like you for you and not for what you can do for them. Men who enjoy the power trip, like your husband, don't care that these women couldn't care less if you were the ugliest man in the world, as long as he's wearing a watch worth more than their entire extended family makes in a year. The big question is, do you want to save this thing? Not keep it together for the kids. Not without him I'm broke. I'm talking, could you ever regain respect and love for this man who has shown his true colors through social clambering on easy mode? I, for one, believe it would be extremely difficult to ever shake the feeling of disgust over his slavering imperialism. I realize you likely loved him at one point, but the man you fell in love with is dead. He's already cheating, and I would stop having S with him before you pick up a serious lifelong STD like HIV. You need to sock away money where you can, and speak with your country's embassy. I'm sure they see this situation all the time. I'm sorry, but for you and your children's sake, please get away from this situation. He's not going to wake up one day and realize how awful he's being. He's going to find a reason to send you back to your country of origin. Then, cut contact. You need to protect yourself. Dog.